seems to me that the future of the Philippines, and for that matter the Asia Pacific, will always have to involve the United States, simply because those partnerships are so strong and so historically embedded in our common psyches. Thank you for your visit, Mr. Secretary.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The big story tonight.
President Bongbong Marcos welcomed United States Defense Chief Lloyd Austin in Malacanang earlier today. And it seems the U.S. got what they came for.
4 new EDCA sites. Mobile journalist Julia Baiza gives us a front seat to that big story.
The Philippines' future will always involve the United States. This is what President Bongbong Marcos told United States Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin when the two met in Malacanang today.
I would be stating the obvious to say that our longest partner and ally has been the United States. I again put great importance on that partnership, specifically with the United States.
Austin and other U.S. officials made a courtesy call to Marcos, and during the meeting, the president talked about the region's current situation geopolitically and recognized that it would be able to properly navigate it with the help of allies like the U.S. Marcos also thanked Austin for visiting the country, as it is an opportunity to discuss the country's outlook on the current situation in the Asia-Pacific region.
Perhaps exchange some ideas and thoughts and comments and information on the current situation geopolitically and of course more specifically here in the Asia-Pacific region.
Austin, meanwhile, said the U.S. will continue to work with the Philippines as the country is a key ally.
You are a key ally and an important ally, and so from the defense perspective, we will continue to work together with our great partners to build and modernize your capability as well as increase our interoperability.
After his meeting with the president, Austin met with his Filipino counterpart, Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. Shortly after, the U.S. Department of Defense announced that the U.S. and the Philippines have agreed to 4 new additional Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA sites in the country. The U.S. DND said the United States has allocated over $82 million for infrastructure investment at the existing 5 sites under the EDCA. Currently, there are 5 predetermined EDCA sites, namely the Benito Ebuen Air Base in Cebu, Lumbia Airport in Cagayan de Oro City, Fort Magsaysay in Nueva Ecija, Antonio Bautista Air Base in Palawan, and Dibasa Air Base in Pampanga. Mobile journalist Julie Baiza, We Are One News.
Here to share with us his insights on U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's meeting with President Bongbong Marcos, we have with us live via Zoom De La Salle University International Affairs Analyst Renato De Castro. Professor De Castro, good evening. Once again, welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening, Rob. Good evening, Gretchen. Thank you for bringing me back.
Of course, this continues our conversations. President Marcos has been, on the one hand, maintaining this independent foreign policy stance, but to that point, he's been meeting with the United States as well as spending time with leaders of Beijing. What is significant with this latest visit by Secretary Austin?
Well, it's, again, balancing our relationship with China, making sure that this form of independent foreign policy is based on the fact that we engage all the great powers. At the same time, this is also an effort to repair our security relations with the United States, of course, after the former President Rodrigo Duterte announced in 2016 that we would have to distance ourselves from the United States. So 2 elements here, showing again independent foreign policy, but with its own take regarding how independent foreign policy should be pursued.
But it also comes with approval for 4 new sites for EDCA. What does that mean? What will that look like?
Well, number one, of course, you will have greater U.S. military presence, but on a temporary basis. So I don't know what will be provided because the original 5 EDCA sites are just air bases. What might be crucial, of course, will be seaports. That will, of course, involve the United States Navy and the United States Marines. So we will see greater U.S. Military strategic footprint. And also, of course, you have to understand why the defense and the armed forces of the Philippines are really pushing for more EDCA sites. Because their sites are joint locations. They will not be used by the Philippines. They will also be used by the Philippine Air Force and the Philippine Navy and the Philippine Army. So from the perspective of defense and, of course, the armed forces of the Philippines, EDCA is an important component of the modernization of the armed forces of the Philippines. The third element there, of course, is something that's not emphasized. We often look at the geostrategic implication of this. We also have to take into account the humanitarian element regarding those EDCA sites. They could be used in case of providing supplies, just in case we have a major natural disaster here in the Philippines, or there might be a need to evacuate Filipino OFWs in areas that will, of course, be subjected to a major geostrategic upheavals. Especially, of course, if you have to look at what's happening in Northeast Asia.
Okay, let's take a look at the timing of this visit. It's not just the Chinese incursion into the West Philippine Sea that we're looking at. There are also heightened tensions between China and Taiwan. What does this visit mean, considering everything that is happening up north?
Well, again, the United States is preparing for the worst case scenario. Just in case, China would effect a forceful unification with Taiwan, the United States would have to react. To what level, we simply don't know. But this is just, a matter of just in case. You have possible blockade, you have possible, gray zone operation, and of course, the worst case scenario will be a outright invasion of Taiwan to finally effect, China's irredentist ambition vis-a-vis supposed to be its renegade province, which is supposed to be Taiwan.
To that point, and without necessarily getting to that point, how do you expect Beijing to take these latest developments?
It already announced that the two countries' alliance should not be directed against a third party. Well, China, as a sovereign country, of course, is entitled to express its view regarding the actions of the Philippines and the United States. But at the same time, as treaty allies, we have to do what is necessary to ensure the effectivity of this alliance, especially in the light of the changes that's happening in the region.
Okay, maraming salamat po. That was DLSU International Affairs Analyst Renato De Castro.
Meanwhile, after facing issues with overpriced laptops, the Education Department is now being tagged for the alleged procurement of pricey DSLR cameras. Now, the issue stemmed from a Facebook post showing a DSLR camera with the DepEd logo. Now, based on the tag, the camera unit was supposedly purchased for over 155,000 pesos, 5 times more expensive than its average market price. Now, when asked for comment, the DepEd said it will look into the alleged overpriced procurement. DepEd spokesman Michael Poa said he cannot confirm the purchase of the particular camera unit, although the agency did procure media equipment with a budget of over 800,000 back in 2019. Now, this package includes 2 DSLR cameras, a camcorder, a tripod, and a condenser shotgun microphone. The DepEd says this purchase underwent market survey and is completely above board.
Kailangan naman po natin ng quality na mga gamit kasi syempre po, when we do live feed and coverage of events, gusto naman natin malinaw yung nakukuha natin at hindi blurred yung images. Ito rin po yung ginagamit natin pag tayo'y gumagawa ng mga AVPs, for example, or any information drive.
For one camera expert, the procurement could be justified if the DepEd is indeed engaged in high-level publication work. However, he noted that using what appears to be an entry-level camera for such purposes seems counterproductive.
If it's solely for live streaming, it's definitely overkill. But if it's, if for a wide range of professional level publications that they also do, then it can be justified.
The Alliance of Concerned Teachers wants the government to open another inquiry into the issue. Recall that the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee recently wrapped up in its investigation into the overpriced and outdated laptops that were purchased for public school teachers. The panel recommended the filing of administrative and criminal complaints against former officials of DepEd and the procurement arm of the Budget Department. Now, right after the break, the magnitude 6 earthquake rocked parts of Mindanao, forcing class and work suspensions. We'll be speaking with FIVOC's Director Teresito Bacolcol. When the big story returns, keep it here on One News. Watching the big story here on One News. Damage to infrastructure and property were seen in Davao de Oro and nearby areas following the magnitude 6 quake that rocked parts of Mindanao Wednesday night. Zem Avancenia with a report.
This is how the magnitude 6 earthquake jolted a store in Monte Vista, Davao de Oro last night. Employees panicked as grocery items fell off the shelves. Medicine in the drugstore were also damaged. Despite this, the store owner says they are still thankful that the earthquake did not happen while they still have many customers.
We were surprised. Our workers immediately rushed out the establishment. Items are falling off the shelf. It's a good thing that no life was harmed.
In the town of Nubataan, where the epicenter was recorded, residents could be seen running outside their homes while the ground is still shaking. Minor cracks were seen in a building inside Davao de Oro State College. Based on the LGU's initial assessment, 2 students were hurt due to a stampede that followed the tremor.
Nagpanik na talaga ang mga bata, nagsipagtakbuhan pababa. So yung meron tayong injury, meron tayong mga injured na mga estudyante, may 2.
A house in Nabunturan, still in Davao de Oro, was severely damaged after one of its posts collapsed last night. Nearby provinces also experienced the strong earthquake. In Mati City, Davao Oriental, the strong quake almost damaged the inflatable pool. Davao City recorded no major damage, but an old overpass was temporarily closed due to cracks. According to the Office of the Civil Defense, assessment of each LGUs are still ongoing. One of the damaged buildings that they are looking into is the Davao de Oro Provincial Hospital.
Based on the assessment na binigay nila is yung sa hospital nga, yung Montevista Provincial Hospital, na kailangan ng talagang overdue, kailangan ma-repair yung parts of the building, and then kasi nga very critical, may mga pasyente. So isa yon, and the schools, I think 6 na minor injuries. May mga estudyante usually yung nag-faint.
For News 5, Jem Avancenia, we are One News.
Tell us more about the quake in Davao de Oro. We have with us on the show FIVOC's Director Teresito Bacolcol. He's joining us live via Zoom. Mr. Bacolcol, welcome to the big story.
Yes, good evening, sir.
First off po, maybe a quick background. What's the cause of this earthquake? Where exactly do we locate it? And more importantly, in the meantime, are we still watching out for aftershocks?
Yes, the fault that generated the magnitude 6 earthquake yesterday is the Philippine fault. The Philippine fault is a major fault in the country that transects all the way from Davao to Luzon. It's about 1,200 kilometers, and several of the damaging earthquakes in the past were due to the motion of this Philippine fault. And yes, we're still expecting aftershocks. We expect small to moderate earthquakes to occur in the epicentral area, which may continue for several days to weeks, some of which may be felt. So as of 6 p.m. today, the total number of recorded aftershocks is 418, with magnitudes ranging from 1.5 to 3.6.
Is the Philippine fault the same fault involved in the very much feared big one?
No, the big one is the West Valley fault. It's nothing to do with the Philippine fault. The earthquake that was generated in 1990, that was produced by the Philippine fault. The 1990 Luzon earthquake.
Okay. At what intensity was this actually felt in the Davao region, and for that matter, neighboring provinces?
The highest reported intensity for this event is intensity 6. Usually for intensity 6, very old or poorly built houses and man-made structures are slightly damaged. We're seeing that in some of the areas in Davao de Oro. Wall plaster may crack, but well-built structures are not affected. So there could also be limited rock falls and rolling boulders in hilly to mountainous areas and escarpments.
I believe there were also fears of a tsunami hitting Davao de Oro, especially the coastlines. But FIVOX already refuted that. Can you explain to us how tsunamis actually occur?
Tsunamis are generated by the vertical motion on the seafloor. So the earthquake that happened yesterday was inland. So definitely do not produce a tsunami, because tsunamis are usually produced by faults occurring on the seafloor.
Tapos ito nga po, nasabi nyo nga po, yung Philippine fault, it reaches all the way to Luzon. So is there any possibility that we could also be affected by the aftershocks? It could reach provinces, cities here in Luzon?
No, I don't think so, but that's too far. Earthquakes are random events, and most of the time their occurrences are independent from one another.
All right. Any last words for those who are affected by this earthquake? How should they prepare for the coming days and weeks, especially those who have felt the need to evacuate from their homes?
Okay, so the best course of action is always preparedness. Again, we are part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, and every now and then we may experience a volcanic eruption or an earthquake. So when we regularly participate in earthquake drills, we develop a culture of preparedness until it becomes part of our reflex. For those who are already affected by the earthquake yesterday, we remind them to be cautious of the structures that were visibly weakened or with signs of damage caused by the quake yesterday. So they have to consult their municipal or city engineers before using their houses.
Before returning to their homes. All right. Maraming salamat. Patuloy po natin itong hayan. That was FIVOX Director, Mr. Teresito Bacolcol.
Friends and former teammates of PBA legend Terry Saldana are still trying to reach members of his family as his body remains in a hospital morgue. The former Toyota Super Corollas and Ginebra San Miguel legend passed away on Wednesday at the age of 64 due to kidney ailment. Ed Cordero, his former teammate in Toyota, said Saldana's health began to decline in 2021 and he needed help in sustaining his medicines. Saldana's career spanned 18 years, including a year at the Metropolitan Basketball Association. He last played in the PBA in 2000 with Red Bull under head coach Yang Giao. Giao remembers Saldana as a soft-spoken and humble player during his days. Before Red Bull, Giao coached Saldana in the Swift franchise in the early 1990s. Saldana's remaining family is said to be in the United States. His friends are now asking for help to locate his remaining family members.
For the body of Terry to be buried, to be cremated, it would take a relative, not us or not anybody. So we're trying to locate the closest of kin of Terry as of now, and we haven't in touch with any of them.
After the break, the MMDA is expected to employ a single ticketing system starting next month after the proposal has been approved by Metro Manila mayors. Metro Manila Council President and San Juan City Mayor Francis Zamora will join us for a discussion on this when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News. Watching the big story here on One News. The Metro Manila Council has approved the implementation of the single ticketing system. Here's what we know. The system wants to have a unified enforcement of traffic rules in the National Capital Region. Part of the plan is to have standardized fines and penalties across cities in the metro. It will also allow payment of ticket fines online. Another piece of good news is that those with violations no longer have to surrender their licenses. The Metro Manila Council also listed down the most common traffic violations committed, which will have uniform penalties. These include illegal parking, reckless driving, driving without a license, and obstruction. Overloading, loading, and unloading in prohibited zones, overspeeding, and discourteous conduct are also among the violations with standard fines. The Metro Manila Council said it wants to lessen confusion among drivers and help ease traffic by doing away with lengthy apprehensions. Local government units have until March 15 to pass their respective ordinances on the single ticketing system. The Council expects to fully implement the system by April. Here to guide us on what to expect, we have San Juan City Mayor and Metro Manila Council President Francis Zamora over the phone. Mayor Zamora, welcome to the big story.
Yes, good evening, Robbie, and thanks for having me on One News.
Okay, so ganito, Mayor, let's say let's say I'm traveling down EDSA and regardless of the LGU, tinigil ako, pinatabi ako, let's say I was speeding. What happens in my interaction kung sino man ang manghuli sa akin?
First of all, Robbie, hindi dapat i-confiscate ang pensa mo. No? At depende kung nasaang jurisdiction ka, whether you are in part of San Juan, part of Mandaluyong, part of Quezon City, you will be issued a ticket. However, violators traditionally have to do, which is to go to City Hall to claim your ticket and pay your fines. Because number one, they will not confiscate your license. And second, you can pay your fines through any digital payment systems available. And the amounts of the fines will be uniformed across 20 common violations within Metro Manila. So yan ay malaking ginhawa, Robbie, lalong-lalo na kung kayo ay taga Ilocos, taga Bicol, taga malayong lugar na dumaan lamang ng Metro Manila, kayo nahuli, ay hindi nyo na kailangan tubusin ang inyong lisensya. Hindi nyo kailangan bumalik ng Metro Manila para lamang magbayad. So malaking convenience sa mga mamamayan.
Sir, yung convenience, malinaw po yun. What about yung lagayan? Mabubura na ba ang lagayan dito?
Well, alam niyo yung lagayan yung sistema kasi natin ay magiging uniform na. So you should know, especially now, that we are announcing to the public what the fines are. Now, maliwanag na kung kayo ay nag-violate, alam niyo dapat kung magkanong halaga. Hindi na kayo malilito na kung ano man lungsod kayo, yun lang dapat ang halaga ng bayaran. Kung meron kayong ma-encounter na kahit sinong traffic enforcer na subukang humingi ng pera, responsibilidad siyempre ng ating mga drivers na gumawa ng hakbang upang hindi ito mangyari. No? You can take videos, you can report to the LGU, you can report to me, to the Metro Manila Council. We have to make sure that everyone is disciplined. Hindi lamang yung mga drivers natin disiplinado dapat, pati siyempre yung mga traffic enforcers natin disiplinado.
Sir, alam po natin na yung pag-confiscate po ng lisensya, that's also a deterrent from people committing violations. This time, you're not confiscating licenses. How then do you make sure that people will pay their fines?
Hey, good evening, Gretchen. Yes, the first question then nga was, magbabayad pa kaya dahil hindi naman kinonfiscate ang lisensya? Tandaan natin, once we are integrated with the LTO system, we can already link to the data ng mga driver's license, yung mga car registration and everything. So kung meron kayong violation at hindi ninyo ito binayaran, ay pagdating ng panahon na mag-renew kayo ng lisensya, ay mapa-flag doon na meron kayong unpaid fines. And also, since we can easily trace your data, kung kayo ay makita naming meron ng maraming demerit points, in fact, 10 demerit points and above, pwede nang i-confiscate yung license. So yung sinasabing hindi pwede mag-confiscate, it is not absolute. Once we see through the integrated data system that you are a perennial violator, we can confiscate your license. In fact, the LTO can suspend your driver's license.
Will a single ticketing system mean that there is uniform rules already when it comes to coding? Kasi for example, sa Makati, buong araw po, pag sinabing coding, bawal talaga. Paano po yung mga ganon?
Yung coding ay hindi nasama yung uniform windows, ngunit merong uniform fines. No? We have to understand that different cities have different terrains. Yung iba, Central Business District. Yung iba, medyo mas industrial. Kami sa San Juan, medyo mas residential. No? So iba-iba. Naintindihan natin na some cities will have to impose tighter restrictions with regard to coding. However, if you get apprehended for coding, pare-parehas yan at 500 pesos.
Okay, sir, huling tanong na lang po, dito pa rin sa pagkakaiba ng mga LGUs. Notwithstanding that, gaya ng binalitaan natin, the different LGUs will have to pass their own ordinances for their respective cities. Kampante naman po tayo that those ordinances will come. Walang biglang sasabit dito bago ma-implement.
Alam niyo, Robby and Gretchen, kumpiyansa naman po ko na yung mga vice mayors natin, yung mga konsihal natin dito po sa Metro Manila ay tutulong po sa atin. Remember, we have existing traffic codes, we have existing local ordinances. We simply have to amend them so that they will match what we passed yesterday, which is the Metro Manila Traffic Code. So, kinakailangan naman magtugma ito. No? So, hindi ito bagong ordinansa, posibleng mga amendments lang po ito sa current ordinances namin, and I have given everyone until March 15 to be able to amend. That's 45 days. I believe that's more than enough time.
Okay, Mayor, maraming salamat po. MMC President and San Juan City Mayor Francis Zamora.
And before we go, do you believe in second chances? Well, our senators definitely do. Senators on Wednesday shared a light moment during their afternoon session as they noticed Senator Cheese Escudero's coach wonderful aura following his supposed reconciliation with wife Heart Evangelista. Senator Grace Poe, in a manifestation, welcomed Escudero, who just came from Paris to spend time with Evangelista. Senators Miguel Zubiri, Joel Villanueva, and Loren Legarda likewise joined in teasing the former Sorsogon governor. Separation rumors hounded Evangelista and Escudero in 2022 after netizens noticed that she had removed the Escudero surname from her Instagram profile. Speaking on Sa Totoo Lang, Escudero joked that the Senate Majority Leader does not know what he is talking about, but he did mention that he and his wife have plans for Valentine's Day.
Kaarawan ni Heart ng Valentine's Day. Exactly! Ang pangalan niya. So pagdiriwang namin yung kaarawan niya, pero dito lang siguro sa bahay dahil mas maraming nagde-date sa labas. Dito na lang kami sa bahay.
We should take a look at Heart Evangelista's Instagram in the coming days.
Balitaan mo. And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more analysis. I'm Robbie Alampay.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Gretchen Ho. Stay safe, Philippines.
And we are One News, all sides, all the time.